Welcome back. Today we're building floating islands. For this video you are going to need world edit, so I'll put a link in the description with a video explaining exactly how to do that. Have you done it yet? I'm assuming if you've got to this point in the video it means you've downloaded world edit. So let's get started. So I'm going to show you exactly how to build one and some tips and tricks so you can take it to the next level. Let's get straight into it. I'm going to head into a new world and I'll start with step 1. For this I'm going to be using a void world. If you want to do that, you can simply go into world settings, change world type from default to super flat, then click customize down here to presets and select the void. You can then create your world and you're ready to go. Now before we start, what does every good artist need? Brushes. I'm going to show you exactly how to get these. The commands for each will be in the description below, but I'll also show you how to customize them so you can add your own bit of personality. To start off with, we're going to need to get 4 different types of shovels. It doesn't matter what type of shovel they are, but it's good to make sure they're all different types of shovel just so it's a bit clearer. Now this is going to sound really weird if you've never used world edit before, but these are actually our brushes. If you try to right click with them now, it's not going to do anything because these are regular Minecraft shovels. If you want to make these into brushes, you've got to use some commands. With your first shovel held in your hand, you're going to want to press T and paste in the first command in the description below. I'll explain exactly how to edit this in a second, but for now let's just press enter. And now when you begin to right click, you should see cylinders spawning wherever you click. Now if you weren't holding the shovel in your hand, you're probably getting a bit confused thinking, why isn't this working? You need to make sure that your shovel is held in your hand when you paste in this command, otherwise it's not going to work. I'm just going to quickly get rid of this. Now that we've done that, I'm going to quickly explain how it works. So the command we pasted in, you'll see it starts with /brush. This tells world edit that we're trying to set a brush for the shovel that we're holding. We then need to decide on a shape. So we've gone with CYL. This stands for cylinder. You can type cylinder, but it's just quicker to type CYL. Then we've got a list of different blocks that we want to randomly be placed in a cylinder shape. It looks a bit confusing when you see the entire command all together, but it's actually really simple. We start off with a percentage, so let's say 50%, and then we type in the name of the block that we want to use. So let's say stone. Then to add the next block to our sequence that we also want to be randomly placed, we put a comma and then another percentage and the other block we want to place in. Before we can press enter, we need to do one last thing, and that is define how big the cylinder is. The first number is the radius of your cylinder, so let's do 3. The second number is the height, so let's say 6. And now we can press enter and test it out. Sure enough, it is half stone, half dirt. Just a quick tip again, if you've never used world edit before, you can then type //undo to undo the previous action and repeat that until you get back to nothing. Now that I've shown you that, hopefully you better understand what this command is doing. It's essentially saying 30% stone, 20% andesite, blah blah blah. The numbers don't need to add up to 100%, but world edit will figure out roughly what percentage of each block to use. So I'm just going to paste that again, and let's start building our island. I'm quickly going to remove this platform by left clicking on one corner, right clicking on the other corner, and then typing //set air, and that will remove that. And then I'm going to type /set block ~= stone, and that will place a block of stone where I am. So right there. This is the base of our island. So we're about ready to begin. we're going to start by placing a cylinder there, and we're just going to start placing these cylinders outwards, going up each time, roughly like this. It doesn't need to be perfect. The shape can be really rough because that's part of what makes this method look good. So we're going to keep on building outwards, placing cylinders like this, building up from that point in the middle, and creating that floating island shape. That looks about good enough to me. Once you're happy with your shape, you're going to want to go to the top here and see that it's actually hollow, so we don't want that. We're just going to place some cylinders in here and roughly fill it in, something like that. That will do. Now that we've done that, it's time for our next command, and that is a very simple one. It's just / brush smooth. This is going to smooth out whichever area we click on, and we want to select a number to define how much it smooths that area. So I like to go with 2, then press enter, and we're ready to start smoothing out the top of this island to build whatever you want. Maybe you like it like this. If you like it like this, then ignore this step, but in my opinion, I like it all smoothed out. So we're just going to start holding down the right click button and smoothing this all out a bit. You may find a few spots where you just need to go back in with your cylinder brush and fill in like this. Oops. You may need to search around a little bit, just make sure there's no gaps that you could fall into, and fill those in, and then continue smoothing out. It doesn't matter that the cylinders make things bumpy because that just creates more realistic terrain. Keep going around. This part may take a few minutes just to make sure that you've got a shape you like. For me, that looks about right. You can keep going if you want and make it even flatter, but for the purpose of this video, this is completely fine. So, we've got the base of our island. It's time to start painting the top. For this, I'm going to use a netherite shovel. Once again, the command is in the description. The command we'll be using is this one. Once again, you can modify this however you like to whatever block palette you need. However, this works fine for me. This time you'll notice we're using a large radius of 6 and only a height of 1. And the reason for that will become apparent very soon. So we're just going to click enter here while holding our netherite shovel. Now, when we start clicking, you'll notice something doesn't quite seem right. It's not really doing quite what we want it to. So I'm just going to type undo a few times. So to fix that, we're going to type /mask !air, and that means that it will replace everything but air. Now when we start using the brush, you'll see that it works like a paintbrush, how we want it to work. So we're just going to cover the entirety of the top of this island with this block palette. You may notice a few spots here and there where it painted the ground blocks where you didn't want them to. You can simply just go back and replace these with whatever blocks you want. We're getting somewhere, but it looks very boring and a little bit strange. Now to fix that, we're going to go back in with our base island material once again. This should help a lot to make things more interesting. Now you can place these wherever you like, but I like to place them around the edge as it gives a bit of a border to the island. So let's place a few here and there. Once again, it doesn't need to be perfect, just find a rough shape that you like. And that seems to be good enough for me. Now we're going to go back in with our smooth tool and click a few times around the top of each of these cylinders, and that will smooth it out and make it look like big boulders. Keep messing around until you find a shape that you like. And this seems pretty good for me, although I might just go back and change things a little bit more. Once again, if your island looks nothing like this, that's completely fine. The great thing about this method is that it creates completely different results every single time. This seems about right for me, and so it's time to move on to our final brush. Now, once again, this is looking really good, but we're missing some greenery. So to fix that, we're going to have one final brush to put some grass around the edges of the island in places where you would expect people to not walk. So once again, we're going to paste in another command. This one again is in the description below, while holding the specific shovel we want to use as a brush. I'm going to be using the diamond shovel. If you want to, you can change this. This is just the block palette that I found looked nice in my opinion. I'm also going to change this from 6 blocks radius to 3 blocks radius. This will make it a bit smaller so we can be a bit more precise in how we paint the area. Now it's important that before we start painting, we once again type the command /mask !air, because the mask we created before was only for the netherite shovel. Then around the edge and places where you think you'd see grass, let's just start clicking here and there. I'm going to try to avoid the rocks like this because it looks a little bit strange. Okay, this seems about right for me, so there's just one last step we've got to do before our island is complete. You may have already thought about this, but to add some super simple quick detail, we're just going to go around with some bone meal on all the grassy areas, and this makes it really come alive. If you want some spots of more moss, you might even want to go and bone meal some of these mossy spots. Moss does look quite great on boulders in my opinion, so I'm going to do that here and there. So, we're done. Or are we? It doesn't just end here. Now that we've learned this, there's many other things we can do to spice it up a little bit. Say we don't like how flat this is. We can easily add a second layer to our island, simply by adding more cylinders to create a sort of mini mountain if you like. If you want your island more overgrown, you can always add glowberries or vines to the bottom of your island to help with this. Leaves make great bushes, and some kind of water feature helps to add just a little splash of color. There's so many different things you could do with this method, so please let me know what you do with this in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, this has been Kangwoo, and I'll see you in the next one.